Radio Free 102.3 KJLH.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the front page of 102.3 Radio Free KJLH. My name is Starlett Quarles, and I'm filling in today and for the remainder of the week for Miss Dominique DePrima, who is on vacation. It's so good to be back, front page family. I miss you. We have so much to talk about this week. There's so much going on in the world today, and I obviously can't talk about it all, but I do want to discuss some topics that not only are impacting the Black community, but ones that I feel are truly relevant to my peers of Gen Xers. And just for clarity's sake, Generation X are those born between the years of 1968 to 1979. We are the generation that not only directly benefited from the Civil Rights Movement, but are now raising our own families while also taking care of our aging baby boomer parents. And let's not forget, Gen Xers are also the parents of today's millennials. So the time has come for us to truly step up to the plate, take the baton from our baby boomer parents, snatch it if we have to, and let's begin to heal from our generational trauma so that we can begin to mobilize, create, and sustain a universal Black agenda that lasts for generations. I know, it's a big ask, but at this point, we have absolutely no choice. It's my generation's responsibility. So for this week, we're going to have a series of conversations for a generation and have an absolutely fantastic lineup of guests and topics for you to tune in. Starting with this morning, we're launching this generational series with our discussion, Black Men on Relationships. Tomorrow, we'll hear from the ladies with their women's perspective with our show, The Misperception. Lips getting in the way already. It is too early. I need some coffee. The misperception of the strong Black woman. And on Wednesday, we'll discuss gentrification with our show. Let's talk about gentrification. Thursday, we'll tackle education with our conversation, the Black experience at HBCUs versus PWIs, which are predominantly white institutions. And finally, we'll end our series on Friday with a topic I think is extremely important for my peers to start discussing: caring and preparing for our aging parents. So we have a lot to talk about, front page family, and thank you so much for waking up with us this week for our series of conversations for a generation. And rolling with me in the studio today, we got Dorian and Bubba. How you guys doing?
What's going on? How you been?
I'm good.
I like your little Yoda mask.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
I know, it's been a while. I'm so glad to be rolling with y'all this week.
Just likewise. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, but I'm glad to be
Did I
back.
just say that?
Yes, you did.
But I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be rolling with my team.
They can see how we are outside the radio.
But thank you guys for being here with me this morning.
Appreciate
And
it.
for rolling with us. We're going to have some fun this week. Okay, so this morning our discussion is entitled Black Men on Relationships. And I have absolutely two fantastic guests that I'd like to introduce you to. But before I do, let me first set the tone for our conversation by addressing what I call the male Me Too movement. Now, if you know me, you know that I've often said that the pendulum will eventually swing on the Me Too movement and men will begin to strike back in some way, shape, or form. Now, while I believe the purpose and mission of the Me Too movement is valid, necessary, and a true reflection of women's experiences around sexual harassment and abuse, I also know that some women have capitalized on and taken advantage of the movement with false claims for financial or personal gain, jeopardizing the credibility of those women who have truly been sexually victimized. Why is there some amen in the church? You know of something that's happened to somebody?
Yeah, I have. I do, personally.
That someone has Me Too'd them and it was a false claim?
And it was a false claim, yeah.
And what happened to him?
Nothing. Like, it was, the claim was proven false and the girl just went about her business.
What happened to the guy?
How was he impacted? A lot. He lost a whole lot. Like, he lost the relationship that he was in. He lost a couple of friends, and then after it was all said and done and the truth actually came out that it wasn't what she said, he was like, yo, man, like, a handful of people actually roll with me on my, like, knew me enough to know that I wouldn't do anything like this. But he lost the girl that he was with, and he showed her proof that it wasn't, and she still was like, no, I can't, I don't trust you anymore. And then He lost a couple of friends. He was in danger of losing his career.
Oh, wow.
Behind it, yeah.
So what happened to the girl?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Did she get money? Why did she say why she did?
She wanted money.
She wanted money, but she didn't get the money.
She didn't get the money.
Okay.
She didn't get the money.
Got it. Okay. And not you, Dorn. You don't know anybody who's been impacted?
No,
I have several friends, who have been falsely accused of sexual harassment.
Kind of like a blackmail thing. It was pay me or I'm going to come out with what we did. And he was like, I got receipts of everything, all the conversations and everything. And she didn't think he was right. And when she came out and said whatever, he got a lawsuit in the mail, and he lost a lot.
Wow.
Because the lawsuit ended up going to his job. It didn't go to his house.
Oh, no.
It went to his job, yeah.
And like I said, it jeopardizes the movement, right? Because there are stories of women that do have credible experiences with being sexually harassed or abused. When you kind of have these exorbitant amount of false claims, then it kind of waters down the movement to a certain extent. So as a result, we have this emergence of an anti-feminist male movement consisting of organizations, online forums, and communities, as well as social media influencers like image consultant and dating advice coach Kevin Samuels. But I'll share a little bit more on him later. Have you guys ever heard of Kevin Samuels?
Yes, I've heard of him before, yeah.
Okay.
His videos are, yeah.
Okay, I'm glad we have a frame of reference. Very good.
Yes.
Now, the overarching name of this misogynistic philosophy is called the Red Pill Movement, and one writer describes their belief as, quote, feminism is toxic, sexism is fake, men have it harder than women, and everything the media teaches about relationships is a lie. In reality, the argument goes, women don't want soft-centered men or chocolates. They want to be dominated, controlled, and manipulated. The most extreme red pillers even believe that women want to be raped, end quote. Now, while the majority of the men who follow this philosophy are white and alt-right, there is an emergence of black men who are beginning to adopt some of their ideologies when it comes to dating and marrying black women. Case in point, as I mentioned earlier, dating advice influencer Kevin Samuels. Now, in all transparency, I just heard about Kevin with the whole conspiracy with him, and not him, but the other guy who cheated on his wife.
Larry Jackson.
Yes.
And then my brother. To be perfectly honest, my brother actually hipped him to me, but I haven't watched his videos until kind of recently.
Who, Derek's?
No, Kevin Samuels.
Kevin's hilarious.
But Derek, you call him hilarious?
Yes.
But with this whole Derek Jackson scandal, which we'll talk about tomorrow, and him having a long-term affair, but giving relationship advice to black women.
In his car, away from his wife.
So we'll talk about that tomorrow. But Kevin Samuels has more than 600,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, and some of his videos have been viewed by millions. Bobo, apparently you have watched several of his videos.
I watched the clips from videos.
Okay.
Like there was one particular video where he compared a girl to Beyonce. He asked her, what are you on the scale of Beyonce?
I seen that, yes.
Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute, dog, that's a high comparison.
Yes.
And she was like, oh, I'm this. And then like every time she said something, she was rolling her eyes. And I was like, he was calling her out on it, but the way he was doing it was like, come on, dog. Like that's a little bit harsh. A little harsh.
So he's very, very popular.
Yes.
Right? And he's trending today because he gives women, like Bobo said, mostly black women, advice on what men who make six figures look for in a wife. And he says these high-value men don't place much value on a woman's independence. Instead, they want a woman who is more of a quote-unquote traditional housewife. A woman who is still attractive, young with no kids, and still possesses the skills to cook, clean, and raise kids. And because he's an image consultant, women call in and he rates their appearance, their weight, and their dress sizes versus how much money they have or how successful they are in their careers, because high-value men don't care about that. So to give you a sense of his philosophy, I'll read you some of his tweets. He says, most men who are in a committed relationship with a single mother have low self-esteem because they can't do better. Marriage-minded men don't want a woman who has slept with half the men in her town. Women with a promiscuous past, marriage won't last. I'll read you one more. If women are more attractive than men, why do they wear makeup? Now, while I believe he doesn't identify himself as a red pillar, Kevin Samuels' advice and philosophy is not only abrasive and misogynistic, but it is also well accepted and believed by many of today's black men. So let's talk about it, y'all. Along with some of our conversation on dating and marriage with our show, Black Men on Relationships. And my guests today are two Black professional men from Los Angeles. We have Mr. Steve Burt, who is a 53-year-old real estate attorney. He is single, has 2 kids out of state, and is actively dating primarily online. And with Steve, we also have Kenneth Fleming, who is 51, a local entrepreneur here in Los Angeles. He is currently in a blended marriage and has 1 daughter with his ex-wife. Please welcome my guests, Steve Burt and Kenneth Fleming, to the front page. Hello, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So good to hear from you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on the front page for our conversation, Black Men on Relationships. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us. It's having myself.
So let me start with you, Steve, because I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Kevin Samuels and this Red Pill movement. You're single. So why do you think there's been this emergence of this sort of black male revolution when it comes to dating and marriage?
Well, I'm not going to refer to it as a revolution. I think some of the things he says, those.
Wait, first of all, are you familiar with Kevin Samuels?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't watch him like your partner on the air said. I've seen the clips because he is popular, so they get shared. Those ideals have been around. Those types of women have been around, and so I just think people gravitate onto him because he's funny. Some because it's negative, and there is a little backlash, like you said, from feeling like manhood is being a little bit suppressed. You know what I mean? So, and women, I think some women have kind of latched on to that and kind of overstated their importance. The whole no good black men thing has been going on for a long time. It's not new.
Okay.
So, a lot of women have kind of validated themselves with that, like there's no good black men without checking themselves for what they're actually bringing to the table. And I think that's the underlying, basis of what he's keying on. These women with very little value themselves, believing that they're entitled to a man of some superior,
Well, you said you wouldn't call it a revolution. What would you call it? If it's not a black male revolution, go ahead.
I just call it, just like a lot of things now, just like, the Black Lives Movement and police brutality is something that the internet has just allowed us to have a very broad, everybody's just aware of it. The internet just makes it a platform for things to be, widely seen by everybody. That's all. But these conversations are not new.
Okay, so fair.
I had these conversations in law school with some of my black female counterparts.
And when you say these conversations, be a little bit more specific.
Well, for instance, I'd be like, listen, women look for a man's career and all of that. Don't be thinking just because you're in law school now and you're going to be a successful lawyer and all that you're going to be a top-notch choice for men. Men are still attracted to beauty, looks, and other things. Is a real true man, an alpha man, is not looking for a woman to be his provider, so that career is not going to have the same social clout in dating for a woman that it will as a man.
Ken,
I was in law school over 20 years ago. I was having those conversations.
Okay, Ken, let me get your thoughts on this.
I'm listening.
Do you have...
Hey, this dude, Kevin Samuels, I know I'm not supposed to beat up brothers, but some of that I've never heard of. I don't want to be a part of it. I don't subscribe to it. Women are beautiful. I love them. And this thing about, the Me Too. I mean, I'm at the point where, if you can't give a compliment to a woman, then without fear of reproach, and there's some issues going on in our society.
Dude, you saying something that I've been saying for years. It just feels weird, like, to see a woman and give them a compliment, like, oh my God, you look so beautiful. Oh, I like your dress. Oh, back up. Like, it's so weird. Like, and that's the way that I was raised. My father's from the South, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was raised to compliment a woman, and it seems like it's almost if you do it in the wrong way, if you flirting now, it's like, oh wait, no, back up, no, me too. Like, okay, I'm just going. And then somebody told me, I spoke that to a young lady once, and she said, you got to know a fine line. I said, yeah, it's a fine line to you, but to someone else, she might not feel it that way and might feel me a little bit aggressive because I played her a compliment.
Got it.
I don't know if I ever told you this story, Dorian, but for everybody out there, I remember once I was dating this one woman. I was courting a young woman maybe about 10, 15 years ago. She had never had a man open the door for her. And she felt some kind of way, like she felt offended that I needed to open the door for her. Car door, movie theater door. When we went out to eat, she was like, why are you doing this? I have my own hands. Because I'm supposed to.
Right. It's the proper thing to do.
So, Steve, let me ask you, when it comes to this strong, independent black woman, what are your thoughts on strong, independent black women? Do you feel that we don't need a man?
Yeah, I do believe the majority of women, period, in this day and age feel like they don't need a man, and I'm cool with that. What happens is they just conflate that with the fact that they want a man. You know what I mean? So it's like you don't need one, but you want one. So if you're trying to get what you want, then there's some things you need to do. You know, not just be sitting there wanting one, but then anytime you have to be conciliatory or anything that would help you get one, then you just say, well, I don't need one. You know what I mean? It's a weird type of dynamic that goes on with that.
Well, let me ask both of you, in your opinions, how important does a woman's career and financial independency matter in a relationship or marriage? And Ken, I'll start with you.
It doesn't matter. All you have to do is when you're sitting in front of a young lady in front of you at a restaurant, just tell her pull out her phone, open up either Citibank or Discovery card, whichever where she uses, hit FICO. If the FICO over 700, we rolling. If it's under 700, we got some problems. And then when I look at these problems, I want to know what they are. You've been divorced, career change. What happened? How come you got a low FICO score? And leave it at that. We got to stop making this thing so complicated. It's simplex. She don't have to be rich. I don't have to be rich. I'm sure with the women I were dating 8-9 years ago are looking at me now saying, dang, this guy didn't show any of this. If I would have known. You're right. I didn't have it. I brought my resources and my talent to the table. I met my wife as a girlfriend and said, what are your resources and talent? We were able to put it in a mixing bowl. We stirred it together, and we had this beautiful cake, right? It's not perfect, right? There's no cake that's perfect. Every cake has lumps in it. But it's our story. It's our fairy tale. It's our dream based on what we decided to come together and do, not based on what I already had and what part of this could you be a part of. Lastly, and I'll go on pause, the independent, we need to lose it. When you say independent, it's an individual. How are you going to be in a marriage and a relationship as an independent person? I wish I could be independent and do what I wanted to do in a marriage. I can't. My wife tells me all the time, I'm a yes girl. Boy, she cuts me out for everything all the time. And guess what? I love it because I love her because I'm committed to the marriage. And it's a beautiful marriage. But the most important thing is you can't be independent in a marriage or in any type of relationship.
Steve, what about you? How important does a woman's career or financial independency matter in a relationship?
Well, the financial part of it doesn't matter at all to me. I'm not looking for anybody to enhance my my financial situation from the relationship. That's not what I'm doing. So that part doesn't matter. But okay. I would like somebody to have their individual goals and objectives. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't, I've been in relationships where the person expected me, like, I couldn't do some of the things I wanted to do because they're always wanting me to be there with them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I would like the person to have some individual interests, let's say, some individual interest goals or whatever, and we can support each other in those. But yeah, I don't want just, and it varies from man to man, but I don't want somebody who's just there like to serve me, like that old school, how it was for our grandparents.
So let me tell you,
the one that just.
As a single man, when it comes to relationships and marriage, do you believe that black women have unrealistic expectations? And if so, what are they?
Absolutely. They overappraise themselves, as men do.
Did you say they overappraise?
Correct.
Okay.
So in other words,
100%.
Overappraise. So just because, and if I use Steve, my good brother's analogy, in regards to she's now a lawyer, then now that means I make 100,000, he got to make 400,000, and that's not love. Mm-hmm. That's a transactional relationship based on economics. My wife and I can get into a real estate deal. I'll make some money. I'll give her some money. We'll go to lunch, and I'm still paying. It's just what it is. It's life. If you don't like it, then I don't know what to do. So the expectation for a woman to be courted and want a man that is financially sound, we got to put it in perspective. If you're hanging out with cats, and no disrespect to nobody, please don't take it that way. If you're hanging out with cats that make $60,000 a year, you can't expect him to take his whole check and give it to you. But what you can expect is when you guys are in that courting period to say, hey, how much do you have on this? And this is how much I have. It is the togetherness. It is the agreement that you two make, and you're able to move forward. I don't think I can do well with a woman that was wealthy and slung her money all in my face. So I don't understand how women love that, and then when they don't have a life, they're upset at the guy. Okay. And when I say a life, I'm talking about they don't have their independence.
Okay, you're listening to 102.3 Radio Free KJLH, Compton, Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Inglewood. Steve, let's get your thoughts. Are women's expectations of marriage and relationships unrealistic?
Their expectations of the type of mate that they think they're going to get are oftentimes way, like he said, they overappraise themselves. They're way out of pocket, I think you mentioned that I date, primarily on dating apps. That's just due to the times, plus add in COVID, and, it's not a lot of options. So I get to see, these women's profiles and what they have going on, and then in their little bio, most of them talk about what they want, and
what do they want? What do you see that they want?
Looked at yourself?
You said, have you looked at yourself? What do they want? Do any of them say that they want to get married? Do they say?
Oh yeah, the term marriage, believe it or not, I think is being outdated. But the thing they say now, everybody uses LTR, long-term relationship, right? Mm. And so they all say that. It's all like no hookups, not here for hookups, LTR. I need a man if you're this.
That's a dating app acronym. That's a dating app acronym. LTR. Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's yeah. But they're looking for long-term relationships. They'll be on there talking about I like nice things. Blah blah blah. Everybody's love language is gifts. There's women on there that are literally like, if you don't have this many stamps on your passport, like you're not going to work for me. Like, it's just crazy. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I'm cool. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's not what I'm looking for. They consider themselves a prize for what, a lot of materialism. It's a lot of crazy stuff in the culture. Sure.
It's funny that you say that about the passport thing, because I know me now. My last relationship, my ex, not the one I'm currently with, she opened my eyes up to a lot, and that was never one of her things. Is like, oh, you haven't traveled, I can't date you, because growing up in LA, I'd never really traveled. Like, It wasn't something big that my family did. We didn't travel. We literally, honestly, stayed within the same perimeters of restaurants. Like, my dad took us to the same perimeter of restaurants. But most women don't understand that sometimes your life experiences can help that man blossom into something more that he didn't even know that he was, because my ex actually expanded my horizon on a lot of different restaurants. Like the first time I ever went to Crustaceans was with my ex-girlfriend, and I was maybe 26.
So let me ask you, why is she an ex?
Why is she an ex? It's a lot behind that. That is a lot behind that.
We ain't got enough time for that.
Yeah, man.
But she expanded.
But
She expanded.
100% right on that. You are 100% right.
In
on
what
that.
respect,
I said
Steve?
the Same thing.
Elaborate.
I mean, Steve, go.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead and elaborate. What do you mean? He's 100% right
No,
on what?
I've said that exact same thing. I'm like, listen, if you're truly about travel, if you're not just on here flossing and trying to, show how, big you are because you've been places, if you're really looking for it in a mate, it takes an hour to go down and apply for a passport. You find a guy you like, you'd help him get his passport, and then you guys could travel together instead of waving your passport around like some type of weaponizing it to be better than everybody. And that's like kind of the culture that we're in. I'm not even going to place that just on black women, although I will say it is prevalent in those profiles.
So let me ask you guys: do black men still want to get married?
Absolutely, black men.
Well, you're already married.
Well, okay, I just had to let it be known.
But just in general, do you believe, Steve? I'll start with you, and then I'll ask the guys here in the studio. Do you believe black men still want to get married? And if so, why?
You know what? I do believe the institution is starting to dwindle across the board. I myself, I'll use myself as an example because I haven't done a survey, but I do. Most of my friends have been married. Most of them divorced. There's a few hanging on. More power to you, Ken Jr. But I want a long-term relationship. I mean, I'm like that acronym. I do. I just don't know how much I want the government entangled in my stuff. Being an attorney, you mentioned I have 2 kids, going through family court just with dealing with my kids. Having to deal with that, relationships, things happen. Being in a relationship with the person and having to get out of it, having to go through the court system is not something that I look at as being favorable. And then, I ask myself, what are the benefits of putting a government tag on my relationship? And I don't see it. I don't see what it is.
Okay. And Ken, I'm going to have you talk about that a little bit later when I ask you about your appreciation for the institution of marriage. But for now, most women believe that all men cheat, Ken. Why do you think that? And do all men cheat?
Let me take the second one first. No, all men don't cheat. And heck, I'll be putting myself in trouble if I said we all cheat, right? But I think one of the things that women need to do. I got the right one, baby. Let me tell you, I got the right one. My wife said something to me while we were dating. She said, it's okay if you cheat. She said, but I'm going to cheat too, and then we can go to counseling and work it out. And it's something to be said. Oh, it's something to be said. So now it puts you in this mode to say, hey, what's good for me, she's saying it's good for her. Now, that's not an alpha woman. What she's saying is, since sex is no big thing, and you're allowed to do it, then it should be no big thing for me. I should be allowed to do it. And so why women think all men cheat, I think some of this starts off with the premise that your parents or your father cheated on your mother. I'm saying some of it. And because of that, you carry that into your relationship. Just because your father cheated on your mother doesn't mean this guy that you're laying next to is going to cheat on you.
Steve?
I don't. A lot of men do cheat.
And why do men cheat? And Bubba, why does your face look like that? Is that why she was the ex? That's why she was the ex, huh? But let me get Steve. Why do men cheat?
It's a lot of reasons. I think some. I think it's cultural. I think a lot of guys are pressured into it. I've seen this happen. You know what I mean? I've seen guys pressure guys in relationships and marriages to take advantage of opportunities. And I think it also has to do with dynamics of relationships. A lot of times women, and I'm not blaming them for getting cheated on, but a lot of times women put guys in relationships, give them the ultimatum, the guys are not mature enough to decide, like, to just move on. They don't want to lose the woman, so they settle down to get married, but they're not ready yet, you know, and then they're kind of like, you know, passive aggressive, acting out. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I've never
agreed. No, that's one.
And when I talked to you earlier, Ken, you said there were multiple reasons why men cheat.
Multiple reasons.
What are some of those reasons?
Some men, their appetite is big. They just have a big appetite. If Steve said something, they accidentally cheat. And I know women, that's a tough one to understand, but they end up in these peculiar situations outside of their wife, outside of their relationships, and they end up cheating. Some of the cheating is they shouldn't have never been together with the person, as Steve said. So there are multiple reasons. It has nothing. I want women to hear this probably for the last time coming out of my mouth, right? You're not the reason 100% of why men cheat. We have to put some accountability on the individual man. And what I would say to men is, and this thing, you know, I know brothers don't like to be told what to do. Somehow we're going to have to withstand that pressure Steve talking about, and just say, look here, sweetheart, I know we had a kid. We ain't getting married. We ain't ready for it. I ain't ready for it. I'm just going to have to pay. We're going to have to work out this custody. It just has to happen. I can't continue. I don't want to wreck my life, because it's just as bad when you end up getting married to the wrong person and you end up getting a divorce. Mm-hmm. You still end up in a trick bag. So at some point, we just got to get bold. Now, by the way, I can say get bold only because I had to get bold in my first marriage. I'm sure we'll talk about it later. But at some point, you just have to get bold and just say, I'm good. And whatever it takes, whatever I lose, I'm the talent. I'll get it back.
Bubba, I saw you shaking your head.
No, I wasn't shaking my head at all. Like he was referencing.
No, when you said, you know, when women cheat, I mean that why men cheat. Yeah, why men cheat. Some of those reasons.
It was my appetite.
Right.
I can tell you
that's
that
when
right
I saw
now.
you shaking your head.
It was 100% my appetite. It had nothing to do with the woman that I was with. It was 100% my appetite, and it was just like I said, I put myself in a position. Like he just said, I put myself in a position that I shouldn't have been in. Like I shouldn't have let myself get that alone with the woman that I cheated with.
Do you regret it?
Do I?
In hindsight?
Nah, okay. I don't. I've always realized that everything that I go through, everything happens for a reason.
Okay.
I wasn't perfect in that relationship, and I'm not here to point fingers and say that she wasn't. I take 100% responsibility for what I did in that relationship as long as it was going on. Probably would have been a lot better if I would have handled my business as a man and not, you know, went outside to satisfy a craving that I literally could have probably got with the woman that I was with, the woman that I was with, and like now in the relationship that I'm with is completely
different.
It's different. It's completely different because that last relationship showed me that, okay, this isn't going to work if I want something more and if I want to move on and have a family. And my parents have been married for 34 years. So I want that one day. I watch my family, my parents fight. I watch them love each other. I watch them support each other. But at the end of the day, I see them both happy, even though they just got through arguing all weekend and I was a mediator. But I say that because I know my dad is listening right now.
But see,
hey, that's a good argument when they got the kids as the mediator.
You said that's a good argument.
Oh, yeah, I'll stay neutral. They'll both call me. My mama call me, and my dad will call me, and I got to play neutral and not act like I didn't hear one of them complain about the other one. Like, you don't say that.
They both in the same room and called you.
Yeah.
Steve, you wanted to say something. I want to get your perspective before we go to commercial break. What were you saying? Steve? Did we lose
Steve, you there? No,
I'm sorry. I agree with him on the appetite. I mean, it's hard to turn down the opportunity to be with an attractive woman, a woman you find attractive. It's more difficult, I think, for men than women to understand.
Okay.
Or just the appetite that you need it 4 times a week and she only wants it twice a month. That's a different appetite also. It's not always you turning down, you know, a beautiful woman.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation. Black Men on Relationships with me, Starlett Quarles, right here on 102.3 KJLH. We'll be right back.
It's hard to deal with low credit and high stress. One of her breasts can't afford
I'm so glad y'all ain't got no cameras because I'm down there in here twerking.
I'm glad they're not on right
now. Hey.
I'll be back on my feet, just call me Stanley.
Oh, they are on. Welcome back to the front page. If you're just now joining us, I'm your host, Starlett Quarles, filling in for Dominique DePrima this week. The current time is 5:19, and the weather is 54 degrees here in Inglewood. Hopefully, it's going to be a nice, warm, sunny day today. It says it's going to be
because it was hot yesterday.
73.
Ooh, it was hot yesterday.
But no, it says it's going to be nice and 73 today. So hopefully we have a beautiful day today here in Los Angeles. So this morning we've launched our week-long series, Conversations for a Generation, with our discussion, Black Men on Relationships. And we've been having a very enlightening conversation with my guests, Steve Birch and Kenneth Fleming. Now, before we were going to the break, we were talking about men's sexual appetite. And during the commercial, Bobo and Dorian and I had a very interesting conversation. So I kind of want to elaborate on men's sexual appetite. And you guys said that women, we don't understand. We really just don't understand how much you guys want sex to the degree that you want sex, and that you can have emotional sex, right, Bobo?
Mm-hmm. I mean, to say it like that makes it sound so bad.
But the way you were talking about it, but the way you said it during the commercial break, you can just get that itch off, and then you're just like, hey, okay, let's have a good day.
Men have sexual appetites. At the end of the day, we're men. I'm not trying to knock that, but there's really no other way to say that. We are men. We enjoy sex. We enjoy that feeling. It's the facts. Women do the same thing. The difference is men more than likely are willing to just do whatever they need to do to get it. It's like an itch. Like we'll scratch that itch, and then right after it's like, oh my God, that's such a relief. And call your girl like, hey baby, how you doing? What's going on? How was your day? Like
I'm literally to get some bread for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's just literally men can have sex with zero attachments. It's like it was an itch that needed to be scratched. Now in my life, I'm 37. I have now found that there are more women who are now able to do the same thing, that they can have sex and it's just like, okay, whatever. I'm going home to my man now.
Now, how does that make you feel when they do that?
I mean,
like the guy, in Boomerang, when Eddie Murphy was in the bed, he was pulling up his
start feeling some kind of way.
If I'm dating you, if we're just like getting to know each other, I mean, by all means, to me, there's 4 different stages. You have the getting to know stage, you have the dating stage, a relationship, and I'm missing a stage. I literally just had this conversation with my nephew. And I mean, they're all different stages. Like when the Bay stage, that's the new thing that's out right now.
The Bay
stage.
Okay.
So you have like the getting to know somebody. To me, both of you guys are free. Y'all can do what y'all want to do. Ain't no answering to no questions. Hey, if you feel like answering a question she asked, to me, that's all you. That's your decision. You have that dating stage is where you guys are getting to know each other. And I think that's where a lot of men and a lot of women need to have a ground rule of what dating is. Because to most men, dating does not mean a relationship and does not mean monogamy. It means I'm dating you, but I'm also dating other people. Just like there are different dates in a month, I have different dates that I go on. To me, that's the way that I look at that.
There's no such thing.
I feel like you've told a woman that before.
No, I have never. I mean, if you ask me, I'm going to. I'm not going to. I'm not going to.
Just like there are different dates in the month, I have different women that I date.
The woman that I'm with now, the young lady that I'm with now, our relationship, it wasn't like one day she called me and it was like I called her and was like, hey, do you want to be my girlfriend? You want to be my boyfriend? No. As time went on, we just gradually realized that we were always together. We were always talking. And it was one day we were on the phone and she was like, can I ask you a question? And I was like, yeah, whatever. Are we together? Like, are we in the relationship, like monogamous? And I had to think about it. I was like, I think we are. Because I had realized that unwillingly I had cut off everybody else that I was dealing with.
Got it. Ken, I want to ask you, because during the commercial break, Bobo had said that his brother had told him that after 10 years of marriage, sex definitely dies down. Is it true? Does sex die down during marriage?
In some cases.
Well, first of all,
I've heard that. So I'm not saying that that's not true.
5, and
what'd you say?
No. It don't. It's your effort. I start dating my wife in the morning. By the time I get home, I'm slapping her on the butt in front of the kids.
Okay, well,
I'm warming it up.
Ken, that's how you got here.
Ken,
y'all better push mute.
Wait, Ken, but juxtapose that with your first wife.
Oh, see, you had to go there. I thought that was the next segment.
But I want you to say something.
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, if you're talking about it was the next wife and it dies down, the only thing I'm saying about that is that you can't compare the two. Sometimes the answer to a bad marriage is not a divorce. It's not marrying that person in the first place. I heard that from a bishop. It's true. You should have never married that person. So you wonder why everything is bad. Y'all can't even pay a light bill together. You guys can't even get in the car and go gas up together because you guys are just with each other for I don't know why you with each other, but hip dips and lips.
Comfortability. I was going to say comfort.
It's comfortability.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
So I can't compare the two, but I start in the morning, and I miss my wife throughout the day. And like I said, by the time she over there cooking, I'm sliding up against her, running. The boys looking at me crazy. So what? Hey, say player, that's what I tell them. Hopefully you find somebody you can do this with when you get older.
All right, fair enough. So, Steve, let me spend a little time with you since you're a single black man dating here in Los Angeles. Okay, you're 53, single. Why have you never been married? Did you want to get married growing up? Did you have aspirations for a wife and a nuclear family of your own?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So, I grew up nuclear family, mom and dad, all that stuff, was in law school and was thinking that I was on the threshold of like being on some Huxtables type stuff.
Okay.
And then back to the prior conversation of just, not resisting temptations and making bad decisions, I got someone pregnant and had a child. And so that kind of threw things in a loop. And then from that point, I made some very strong relationships, intimate, whatever, with a lot of women, that some of who are still my friends, but I wasn't ready.
Okay.
What I was going through, I had some bitterness, all kind of stuff going on from, baby mama drama and whatnot, so I wasn't ready. And there's no regrets on that either. I'm glad I never got married. Like somebody said earlier, it's bad enough going through like child custody stuff, but if you're in a relationship you don't belong in, having to deal with the alimony and all that other stuff and division of property, I'm so glad I didn't deal with none of that.
Okay. So you say you are...
Now
I'm sorry.
like I'm more ready.
So you say you're...
So now I believe I'm mature.
You're mature enough for marriage? So you still want to get married? You still want the actual ceremony? Or you said you were... You said what?
I do not want to get married.
You want a long-term relationship?
Not in a legal sense.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said you are the dating app king. I'm using your words. How many apps are you actually on?
Well, currently 3, but I've tried them all except for the ones that require you to pay. I'm not paying for them.
Okay,
but Hinge, Tinder, Bumble, Plenty of Fish, Black, all of those.
Okay.
More and more that I can't remember. Yeah.
So how would you say the dating game has changed in this age of technology? And when you're on these apps, what exactly are you looking for?
Same thing I would be looking for if I was out doing traditional dating. I'm very foremost evaluating the physical, you know what I'm saying? And then I'm ascertaining what I can from those pictures about, what a person's personality. So I look, if it's somebody who's highly flossed up, a gang of a whole bunch of different colored weaves and like camel eyelashes and all that kind of stuff.
Did you say camel eyelashes?
Yeah. I'm
okay.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's my reference because I just came from the desert. But then I'll be cool. I just immediately start trying to evaluate and try to ascertain from a profile, is it somebody I'm going to be compatible with? Because again, at my age, I'm not trying to like put up numbers. I put my numbers up. I really would like to have one person that I'm cool with and just move forward and make moves.
Okay, so as a single man, and I want to kind of piggyback on what we were talking about earlier with the Me Too movement. So being single, how has the Me Too movement impacted how you now date and choose women online?
I mean, it makes it very difficult, like these brothers said, you know, because it's more than, I hear what they're saying about the false accusations. I have a serious experience, anecdote I could tell you about that. I don't want to take up too much time. That happened to me from somebody on a dating app. But it's more than just the false accusations. It's the whole expansion of what is sexual assault. Like they said, a compliment now could be sexual assault. Mm-hmm. On a dating app, one of the analogies I use when I talk to people is like, you can go on there, you can get a lot of matches with a lot of different women. And it's like, if you're shopping on Amazon, it's like having that stuff in your cart or in your box. But actually checking them out, you know, and getting them delivered to your house, you know, where you're making that actual real contact, that's kind of the hard part. And with a lot of these women, asking for their number, they take as an assault. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I've been damn near cussed out for telling a woman, okay, now that we matched on this app or whatever, you know, how about you give me your number? I don't like checking this app all day. We can just talk to each other, blah, blah, blah. I've been cursed out for that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I've been called all kinds of crazy for suggesting that somebody meet me in a public space. You would think I told the chick to come over to my house at 2 a.m. You know what I mean? The way she responded. Mm-hmm. You know, so yeah, it's definitely had impact on the way things are now.
So what do you like about the dating online? What are some of the pros and cons versus old school, you know, dating or courting where you meet somebody and you call her and you guys go out for a few times and, you know, whatever. So what are some of the pros and cons of online dating?
Well, it's quantity, number one.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's an endless virtual cornucopia of women. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So that part is great. And then, you know, growing up being a man, we all get used to shooting your shot and getting turned down, right? I mean, it's just a part of life. But even though you're used to it, you don't like it. So virtual rejection doesn't sting quite as much. So I'll admit, sometimes I'm even more bold than I would have been in person. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? As far as who I'm going to shoot at, like somebody that I might look at normally and have a little bit of hesitation, question myself a little bit, like, can I pull that? There's no hesitation online. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm going all out. Let Halle Berry get on the app. I'm shooting my game. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So,
I am with him on that.
There's that.
But go ahead.
So, you know, there's that. So it has its benefits. Like I said, the really only the downfall is making that transition from the inbox into reality, into getting into actually having that date delivered.
Okay, so on the app, do you date women in your age group?
I do, if they don't look like my auntie. You know what I'm saying? I'm 53. So you can imagine what the average is like, you know, and for the 53-year-old women that's on there. And that's what I was saying earlier. It's like, have you seen yourself? You making all these demands, like, who's really swiping on you?
Oh, man.
You know.
Ooh, I remember those days.
You used to do the dating apps too?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so what was your experience like?
So
why were you on the app? Were you on the app?
I was single at the time.
So were you looking for nut?
I was looking for whatever came my way. Whether it was love or fun night or whatever happened.
One night.
There you go.
Like whatever it was. Like I didn't care.
Exactly right.
You can a man can tell pretty much by the way the conversation's going what you look like, how this is going to go.
Okay.
Like most of the time, most women that are looking for the same thing, like just for that one night fling, they're pretty aggressive with what they want. Mm-hmm. Most women that are interested in more, like they want a relationship, you can tell by the way the conversations go. When they start talking about, well, tell me about where your family's from. Tell me about where you went to school. Okay, that's cool. Most other women is like, yo, what you got going tonight? Yeah.
So
what did that tongue do? Yeah.
Like did they really say that?
It's true though.
Do they really say that? What that tongue do?
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Oh my God.
They do.
Yeah. And so your current girlfriend, did you meet her on the app or did you meet her?
I met her hosting an event.
Okay.
I was hosting an event a couple years ago and we ran into each other. But when we met, we didn't talk again for like 2 or 3 months, and I just happened to hit her up, and we've never stopped talking ever since.
So
but the app situation, one of the reasons why I didn't like the app is because no matter how big the population of Los Angeles is, this is still a small population.
Yes.
And I got hit up, like my ex, who was my ex, her friends were hitting her up. Ooh, I saw your dude on a date and said, I thought y'all was cool. Like, she wasn't telling people we had broken up. And it was like, wait a minute, man. Like, I'm not with you. So now I can't even do dating app. I can't do
that's
Tinder.
not your fault.
It wasn't, but I just felt some kind of way, the way that I am. And I was like, you know what? I backed off. I just like, apps ain't the one for me. That's
you
not
ever do
it for
dating
me.
apps, Dorian?
No, I've never done a date. I'm old school with it.
Okay.
You know, I'm meeting you in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you meeting your mama in person? You meet the mama in person?
I'm meeting everybody in person. Like the dating apps had never been appealing to me. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with anybody doing it. It's just, that just wasn't my cup of tea, you know? It's just, you know, I'm kind of old school with how I go about meeting people.
At the liquor store.
Yeah. You know, liquor store.
So, Steve, is it possible to find love and marriage on the dating app?
Well, I mean, hundreds of marriages say, or thousands, I'm sure by now, say yes. And I had a girlfriend up until July.
Okay.
I had my little COVID boo, you know what I mean? And we met online, and it was cool. I mean, I'm cool with her now.
Okay.
I mean, we don't talk all the time, but I mean, it wasn't no hard feelings. Great girl, you know. She wasn't there for a hookup. Neither was I. We went out. We liked each other, and you know, we started dating. We dated almost a year.
Okay.
You know. I don't know if COVID had something to do with the breakup or not, maybe, you know, additional stress, but yeah, 100%.
Okay.
It's
all right.
just people. The app is just a conduit. People are who they are.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So, yes.
Okay. All right. Ken, let's talk a little bit about marriage. You're divorced once and now married again for almost 5 years. Share with us what you actually appreciate about the institution of marriage.
The partnership, it really is a partnership. Of course, it's love. Of course, it's sharing. Of course, it's growing together. I just, you know, I don't have to worry about going on the app looking for a date like these brothers. But my date is already down there.
Don't knock it.
Yeah. And so I have somebody who we have chosen to grow together.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what have you learned from your first marriage in hindsight?
Well, I gave a little bit of that answer in the beginning. I should have never married that person.
Just realize this whole interview is about that first marriage, bro. The happy one we don't care about. It's not happy one we leave the details on.
How'd you get in and how'd you get out?
Did she take half? That's what we know. Did she take half, my brother?
Yeah.
See? And that's exactly why my other guy don't want to get married. Everybody trying to give up half of everything I work for.
Hey, look, but I tell you, when you give up 55%, the other side of the rainbow is beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, we can, man.
45% rainbow, dog. I don't know about how
Listen, man, we was arguing over a CD collection, 800 CDs, and I had to just go ahead and just start taking 10 to the office and load them up digitally. And after I loaded them all up, I gave them to her. Like, you can have all of them. I don't even want to break up Anita Baker and all these other folks who got an album. And 2 years later, I found them in my nephew's garage. Like, what was that about? You know, so I should have never been married to that person. I'm just being honest. I have a beautiful daughter out of it. But hey, we shouldn't have never got married. I didn't understand how to say no. I didn't know what marriage was about. I just thought you got to find a woman and that's it. You know, forget everything else. Go to work, make money, be devoted for 3.5 years and miserable. And that's what marriage is about.
So what were you taught about marriage? What were you taught about marriage growing up? And what is your perception of it now that you know better?
So I wasn't taught anything. No one ever said, this is how you get married. My parents divorced at a young age, and then they both got into relationships and got married eventually. And that was what I saw. I didn't see the intimacy. I didn't see any fun. Someone said earlier about taking trips. We didn't take no trips, no family vacations. I'm not upset about that. She did everything that she was supposed to do, and we had a backyard to play marbles and jump on. People climb trees and jump on roofs and tear roofs. That was our vacation. But we didn't have the ability to. My parents didn't say, "Hey, this is what you look for. This is the type of person. Hell, in fact, I brought home some dirty rats. My mama would say huzzy, and we still didn't have a conversation about, hey, son, don't bring that home. That's not what you're looking for. I never had any conversation about it. So now I'm an adult. I'm making some money. Yeah, I'm making a little money, and now I'm looking for the finest one. But the finest one ain't ready for marriage. See, now it's that exterior thing. And so, after you go through, give up half, 55% in my situation, and you say, hey, I'm the talent. I just got to start back over. Did the dating, and then I ran back into a childhood friend that was going through the similar thing. And so when we sat down and we put our resources, our talent, and the SWOT analysis, the strength, the weaknesses, the opportunity, and threat, we put all of that on the table. This is my issue. This is my hang-up. I mean, I remember telling her, if we don't have sex for a week, I'm cheating. And, she was like, yeah, whatever. I remember when I was single, women used to tell me, and these were the best ones, guys, if we don't have sex in a week, I'm cheating too. You don't have no problems with those, right? But anyway, we put all that on the table, and then we just began to unpack it. And yes, it was when I was in my 40s, of course, and you're more mature. You don't want to go through this mistake again, and it was real natural. It was real natural. It's funny. We would say women can't be our best friends, but you know what? My wife is my best friend. She considers me hers, and it's interesting to see us interact with each other. People, we receive a lot of compliments on how we interact with each other, but it's only because we had to be bold and just say, we ain't gonna deal with that BS.
Now, Ken, I've known you for years, and you're in an absolutely wonderful marriage, and I've seen you grow and evolve. And I know we're going to lose you right before we go to commercial break, but before you do, please share with our audience, what do you believe it means to be equally yoked in a marriage?
Well, it's just that. Equally yoked doesn't mean y'all both make $50,000 a year and you both are 5'5". Equally yoked means the yin and the yang. Where you're short, she picks up, and where she's short, you pick up. So I spoke earlier about my wife. She cooks, so I have to come in and clean up the kitchen, right? Part of that is me spending more time with her. We spending more time with each other. That's the equally yoked. We want to be around each other. And when you have someone that you want to be around, you guys are on the same playing field. No different than if you're in a marriage and it works for your marriage, that he's allowed to take guys' trips and she's allowed to take girls' trips. That's what works. Equally yoked means we agree generally, most of the time, on the things that it's going to take to keep this thing moving forward, this relationship moving forward.
Ken, I love you. Thank you so much for joining on our conversation.
Thank you for having me
today.
It's wonderful meeting you all.
Okay,
Steve, we'll talk soon.
Steve is going to stay with us because we're going to. Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Steve is going to stay with us because we're going to take your calls now. We want to hear from you and your thoughts on black men on relationships. So give us a call here at 520-KJLH, 520-KJLH from any area code. You're listening to The Front Page with me, Starlett Quarles, on 102.3 Radio Free KJLH. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with your comments and questions with Steve Bird. Welcome back to The Front Page. I'm your guest host this week, Starlett Quarles, filling in for Dominique Prima. And our discussion this morning has been on black men on relationships with my guests Steve Bird and Ken Fleming. But now we want to hear from you. So we're going to open up the phone lines, and Steve Bird is still here with me to answer some of your questions and reply to some of your comments. So our number here is 520-KJLH from any area code, 520-KJLH. Do we have a caller?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, caller. You're on.
Oh.
Hi.
Oh, good. Oh, but I just want to comment. That was a situation like the brother was talking about, that he said something nice to a lady. It wasn't meant anything. I just said, came into the section, hi, good morning, nice dress. And the lady on the sideline, the older lady at that, that's sexual. Actually, can't say nothing about what she's wearing or nothing like that. And it bothered me because I said, I can't say nothing nice to a lady no more. You know, come on.
It seems that way, man.
You know,
I said it does seem that way, Howard.
Yeah, you know, it does seem that. And I asked other ladies in my section, older ladies, the ladies I would say with our co-workers, and I asked the lady herself, she said, Howard, yeah, that was cool, man. I took it as a sincere compliment. And that's another problem, too. I went to a sexual harassment class, and they said some about people in the crowd can complain about some action like that. And another thing, I'll make it quickly, I think since our families, black families are headed by mostly women, 70%. So they say boys need a father. Yeah, they need a father. But girls need a father, too.
Absolutely.
They need to know. They need to know what kind of man, what to expect of a man, how a man's acts, a man's behavior. I know one of my sisters said, well, my father, I give him credit, he's dead now, I give him credit by standing with the family. She said it was his presence that, you know, they're not with their men now, but they know what they expect of a man. And by them not being with the man, they don't know how we bond. I'll be out with guys, we might be a little late. They go home, so, oh, my lady got mad and blah, blah. She think I was out with other. I was you guys, man. We bond like that.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's very important for us to try to get together and stay together. Like, I've been married 52 years. I don't know how I did it, but I did. I'm still here.
Congratulations, man.
What the thing about it is, my in-laws were married for 72 years.
Wow.
And me and my wife, we look at that because we have an example how to be. And my parents were married about 35 years before my father passed. So we had examples to go. My father, they argued. Yeah, they argued. He had to do like a thing about flight after first fight type of thing. So when you have a relationship like that, you're looking to get out of it anyway, you know.
Okay.
And that's my comment. But we got to start. Had to start. I just say black men had to start stepping up to the plate. Because these sisters leave us behind. You see what they're doing? Damn. I got a lot of granddaughters, great granddaughters now, and I'm looking at them. You guys are going to be the leaders of our race because they're so intelligent, they're aggressive, and they're just beautiful kids all the way around. It's going to be a really joy. I hope God gives me another 10, 15 years so I can see these little girls going to womanhood, you know.
Yeah, Thank Howard, appreciate it, Howard.
Thank you so much. Steve, your comments for Howard about the Me Too movement and how it's just, you know, difficult, not even difficult, but men just feel uncomfortable just giving a compliment to a woman without, you know, them saying that they're feeling sexually harassed or uncomfortable.
I mean, I couldn't agree with them more. I'll just give an example real quick. One of the apps, Hinge, allows you to select which picture it is that you want to like. You know, on the other ones, you just like a person's whole profile. This one lets you pick. And a lot of times, you know, I want to pick the bikini back shot. You know what I'm saying? Then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Is that saying something about me? Am I going to be looked at a certain
But she put it up there for a reason. It's up there. She put it up there for you to like it, obviously.
But you know that exact argument. Is, well, if you didn't want XYZ, you shouldn't have came over his house dressed like that. You know, that doesn't mean nothing. How she's dressed and what she does doesn't mean it. Come on.
Okay.
Come on. I'm not falling for that okey doke.
Okay,
but, you know.
For me, he said Howard said something about the whole compliments thing. And I get this from my father, is the word sweetie. That's the way that I refer to a lot of women when I talk, hey, sweetie, thank you, sweetie. I appreciate it, sweetheart. I get that from my father.
Okay.
Now, one of my older sisters, because I have two older sisters, she always told me, don't say that. Don't say that because somebody's going to take that the wrong way. And in my life, I never understood how someone can take the word sweetie or sweetheart the wrong way. But it's happened.
It didn't happen until the Me Too movement, or because you've been saying it, you know, for the majority of your adult life.
I'm 37. I've been saying it my entire life.
And so it didn't become a problem until Me Too.
It did. It became a big problem in Me Too, and for somebody that I know. And also the marriage thing, I think that, like how he said he was married for 52 years, his in-laws were married for 72. I think a lot of reasons why you hear a lot of older couples, like not older in age, but couples that have been around for a long time, last is because I really, really hate to say this because I'm about to sound really old, but social media. I think social media gives people this perspective of how a relationship is supposed to be.
Of course,
because of how this relationship
reality
is.
TV.
Yes, it just gives you like, oh my God, that means there's better and more out there. So you'll see people married 3, 4, 5 times just to look for that person. No, man, you don't need to be married. You are a serial relationshipper. Like, that's to me what it is. People back then fought for relationships. Like, women would threaten a man, I wish you would go out and be sitting there the whole time with a butter knife. Like, I'd cut it off.
Right. And Lorena Bobbitt did do just that. We're coming into close to the end of the hour. So, Steve, before we go, I just want to get your perspective on what you believe Black women's role is in Black relationships, family, and the community at large.
Well, I mean, I think Black women have a larger role in Black society than any other group of women in America have in their respective communities. I really believe that. Not diminishing the suffering that Black women have been through, but the vilification of Black men has left Black women traditionally to handle a lot of the load that the men would typically handle, and so it's become part of the culture, I think. So even when it isn't necessary, Black women have just taken on those responsibilities. Going back to what you said about strong women, I think that thing's kind of gotten distorted because back when, our parents or maybe even our grandparents, when the women had to shoulder more of the load because of circumstances, they were considered strong for picking up, like Ken said, pick up where the man can't or whatever. They were considered strong for doing that, and rightfully so. But just because they were able to do it and show strength in those moments doesn't mean that that's the ideal thing to do. So now I see, a lot of Black women taking that as more of a badge of honor as opposed to something that strong Black women did out of necessity. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I think that whole thing is that strength has been distorted as something that, they aspire to like take on, all of these roles, and like you were talking about earlier, don't need a man. It's like you maybe not technically need one, but you want one. And to the extent that we all work together, our community is better for it.
Okay.
And I know a lot of my answer is focused on women. Men have their role in that,
and
too.
I was going to ask you that, but we have a caller, and I wanted to... Do we have a caller?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a call. I do wanted to get your perspective on the man's role, but I want to get to our caller. Hi, caller. You're on the front page. What's your name?
Well, good morning, Donnie.
Good
My
morning,
name is Sandra.
Hi, Sandra. Do you have a comment or question for our guest?
I do. First of all,
do me a favor, Sandra. Turn your radio down for me.
Okay. Gotcha.
Thank you.
First thing, you guys that are new school, y'all babies, don't try to bring us old school folks in your mess.
Ooh,
Our lives are way different than y'all, so leave us alone, because you going to wake up the general like me, and we ain't playing with y'all.
What do we do this morning, Sandra?
What I do?
What do we do?
Y'all, wait a minute. See, y'all going to try to bring that demon out of me, but Lord, just keep me still.
Ooh, I rebuke him. I am rebuking him. Okay.
Okay, let's move on, y'all, in the interest of time.
Okay.
Y'all new school folks, y'all babies to us. So don't try to refer back to our stories, because y'all weren't the participants. So y'all stay in your lane and talk about what y'all doing, messing up, especially with relationships. First thing you men want to do when you see these girls, and because of the way these girls are dressed, they saying to you guys, "Oh, I'm here.
So
I'm gonna give it to you.
Let me ask
you don't even have to work for it.
Let me ask you a quick
Just
question.
Look at it.
Let me ask you a quick question. What did we say to make you feel like we were attacking older couples?
Exactly.
Oh, the words that you were saying, like you guys don't understand the importance of a relationship.
But
what's involved with a relationship? First thing you do is you look at somebody, you know good and damn well what your intentions are. If the girl is dressed like a hoe, you know what your end result is with her.
Not necessarily. That is not 100%.
Yes,
no, ma'am.
You young school.
Ma'am, no,
yes.
That is not. That is not true. That is 100. I really wish we had more time. Hold on, miss. Hold on. We running out of time. I'll make this quick. That is 100% not true. Just because a woman is dressed a certain way does not mean that I'm going to treat her a certain way. I'm going to act her a certain way. The content of her character and the way the conversation goes determine that. Now, referring back to the old relationships is because that's how we learn. People learn the past.
And so, we're products of those relationships.
Hold on. Let me get my point out. A lot of you
make it quick for me because we got to go to Steve Harvey.
Come from traditional families.
I did
have mom and dad.
My parents are. Excuse me, my parents are still married.
My parents are married for 34 years.
Over 60 years.
Okay, that's good. That's the exception.
The three of us parents are still married to this day.
That's the exception to the rule. So you guys have
that is true. And Sandra, I'm sorry, we're going to have to cut you off, and I wish
know
you would have
do because I'm telling the truth.
No,
end of the show. So sorry, Sandra.
First of all, I want to thank you so much for tuning into the front page today. I'd like to thank my guests Steve Burt and Ken Fleming. Make sure you join us tomorrow as we continue our series of conversations for the generation with our discussion with the ladies, the misperception of the strong black woman. Right here on the front page with me, Starlett Quarles, signing off as my mama's child and my daddy's baby girl. Until tomorrow, God bless you.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Appreciate you.